Hi, my name is Eela Dubey. I'm a co-founder at EduFund. My mission with EduFund is to ensure that no child is left behind from getting the education they dream and they deserve. I started my career on Wall Street completely by chance, where I started working in a very niche industry. From there, I decided to come to India, actually, and get exposure to a completely different and dynamic market. I thought there was so much opportunity here, and I had such a strong connection to India because of my family. So I decided randomly one day that I was going to completely uproot my life from New York and move to India, where I started working again in finance in a completely different culture, in a completely different sector. I started working here for a few years, which is where I met my current business partner, and the seeds of EduFund germinated there until finally we decided that we were going to take a complete leap of faith and start our own company, which we did in early 2020, and that's when EduFund was born. Yes, I've always been ambitious, and I give that ambition credit to my father, who raised me to be a fierce young woman from when I was very small, and told me that no woman should be prevented from doing anything that a man can do. He raised me to be a tiger, to have no fear, and to chase after my dreams completely. EduFund was born out of my own challenge, having a very difficult time financing my own higher education. I went to New York University for my undergraduate degree, and I wasn't lucky enough to have parents who were able to finance my entire education. I had a sick parent, in fact, who was in and out of work for a decade of my life. And so when it came time for me to fund my own higher education, I had to take loans. I received a small scholarship. I worked 2 jobs, and my parents were kind enough to help me as much as they could. That being said, I had an amazing privilege to go to an incredible university, but there were certainly hardships financing that journey. I created EduFund so that no child and their parent has to go through that same struggle, so that that struggle is reduced, even by a fraction, so they have access. So the last thing a parent has to worry about while educating their child is that I cannot afford it. That shouldn't be what they have to worry about. Trust matters, and connection matters. It is so important to connect and have open conversations with your investors, but also relay your vision and a roadmap to them. Be calculated. Bring your ideas to a piece of paper. Write down things. Don't just have dreams and clouds. That's okay. But when you're actually taking it to investors, when you're trying to raise your first buck, be calculated about your messaging and really think it through, because that matters. Women should be financially independent because men are financially independent, and they have access to resources that make them financially independent. So why, as women, shouldn't we? There is a general misconception around women that they cannot and should not invest. I don't know why this misconception exists, but in my mind, it is a fallacy, and it is something that we need to undo. Women have this incredible ability, and I apologize for generalizing, but I feel they have this incredible ability to stay calm in the center of a storm, which is something that's really needed in markets. Markets can be extremely volatile. Fund managers can make really rash decisions at times, or they can run after the fear perception that exists around losing a lot of money. Women, in my view, are less susceptible of doing this. In fact, if you look at some statistics and some research that's published, I believe Goldman published a research survey that found 48% of women-led funds outperformed 37% of male-led funds in 2020. Similarly, from 2000 to 2009, where there were extreme market scenarios, a lot of volatility, for example, during the dot-com crisis or even the financial crisis, women-led hedge funds had double the amount of returns in that period from 2000 to 2009 than male-led hedge funds. That's enormous. And the last point that is really worth highlighting is during the financial crisis in the year 2009, women-led funds had losses of around 9%, whereas their male counterparts lost roughly 19.5%. That's a massive discrepancy. And for me, I think that is just symbolic of the fact that women can make extremely rational and well thought out decisions with respect to investments in the markets, and that we should continue to empower women to become more financially literate, to invest, to take control over their finances. Moms can do this for their children, right, for their future, and it will create a systemic effect where if I, as a mother today, start investing, I teach my child, I pique her curiosity, she will then maybe perhaps one day teach her child. And that is how, through togetherness, we empower women to become more financially aware, to make decisions, and to make some really great investments. If you have the vision and you have the dedication and sincerity to start your own company, because it is hard, but if you have those three things, nothing should and can stop you. You should absolutely take the leap, close your eyes and take the plunge, because the journey is absolutely beautiful and there should be no person holding you back just because you're a woman. In fact, you should take one leap extra and move forward because you are a woman. Nothing is impossible.